Hey, what's up? First off, I want to say that I'm filming this video not out of ego, but I'm filming this video without a shirt on because I come from a family where we've always shamed each other's bodies, and never take my clothes off unless I'm like making out with somebody in bed or at a beach or in a forest. But if I'm at a pool or anything like that, I always keep my shirt on. So I'm trying to end all the things that I'm extremely fearful of and that I've been shamed of. Because as I'm creating this book to heal others, I feel like I'm becoming more healed. And I think that's what we all need to do. We need to just take off our clothes. Honestly, who created clothes in the first place? You know, when we ran around Africa in Costa Rica, I was in Costa Rica for 30 days and I never wore clothes. I didn't go with my family, but I always had my shirt off. So I think that's what we need to do. I think we need to just get past all these fears. Like filming a video without your shirt on. Or not wearing makeup. Or not having filters on your phone. Earlier today I was suffering from a little depression. And I was like, gosh, what's going on with me? I'm suffering from a little depression. What is this all about? And then I went out in nature. And I instantly felt better because I saw this tiny little butterfly, this blue butterfly. And I was like, that's what it's all about. And it takes time to remove yourself from the gadgets and the cell phones and TV to bring yourself to a piece of wholeness and well-being. And when you are mentally ill, or when you have borderline personality disorder or bipolar disorder, or you suffer from severe depression, or you get angry quickly and people discard you because you get too angry, it's very difficult for us because we're always alone, because people reject us and discard us. And it's very difficult to deal with. So by spending all that time by yourself, you get very good at solitary activities, or you become addicted to things. And one of the reasons why you are most likely rejected so much, or you have so many mental illnesses, is because you come from trauma. And like your family, something wrong happened. So we spend a lot of time in isolation, which could lead to addiction and getting angry and frustrated at other people and being depressed. Because most of us that have a mental illness, or who are bipolar or borderline or depressed, we live a half-life where we're either scared of people, or we lose our temper quickly, we get rageful, angry, we get so depressed that we have to call in sick from work and we lose our jobs. And then people at work start to realize that we're depressed, and they don't want to be around us because we're depressed. And they're like, what's wrong with that person? Why are they depressed? Everybody else around here is pretty happy. They seem to be doing all right, but this person looks depressed. Why? And it's difficult for us. It's difficult for us to fit in, and it's difficult for us to act and get through the day and try to convince people that we're okay and there's nothing wrong with us. And that puts a great strain on an individual that's barely making it out of bed in the first place, that's so depressed and suffers from so much trauma that they just don't know how to heal. They don't know how to fix it. And it's so hard. And we spend so much time alone. And we try to be in relationships, but we attract the wrong people because they might be attracted to us and they got trauma and we have trauma. And the pretty people, the people with perfect lives, and the people from middle class, upper middle class homes, they don't really want to have anything to do with us. Because most middle class people marry pretty middle class people, and upper middle class people, they marry the same people. And all us trauma kids from lower income backgrounds, poverty backgrounds, we're stuck with what we have. And we can't really marry up and be with the average people because they see us as defected. Or, you know, our families aren't as pretty as their families. So it's difficult. And they would rather just be with their own kind. So when you come from poverty, most of us have mentally ill parents, and that's a big problem. Because if you have a mentally ill parent, how are you going to climb up the ladder? What are you going to do? The only answer I found that works is IFS therapy. By the way, I do apologize for not having my shirt on today. I was just in the bathroom. I was like, you know what? For a video, I'm not going to wear a shirt because I really work hard for this body and I eat really healthy. And that makes me happy because of gut biome health and doing something active every day. And it keeps me from being sleep deprived, and moving my body also makes me happy. So I was like, I'm proud of this thing. Why don't I just show it off? And I shouldn't be afraid and ashamed of showing off my body. I should just take off my shirt like I did in Costa Rica because I was so happy there. Because nobody wore a shirt over there. Why do we always wear shirts? And if you're not from the winter time, if you're not from like up north, you're from down south, like why wouldn't you? It's because of other people. It's because what do you think about your body? Whether your parents shamed you, or the people at school shamed you, or what you see on Instagram and TikTok about how perfect everybody's body looks. And you start comparing yourself to their bodies. If you read my book, you'll see that a lot of the chapters, a few of the chapters talk about how, you know, I hate the belly fat that I had, and it made me feel like I wasn't good enough. And there's this chapter in there where the belly fat is actually talking crap to me and telling me that I'm not good enough. And I think a lot of us have like that belly fat that talks crap to us, or the butt or the thighs that talk crap to us. So it's really hard, especially if we compare ourselves to other people that we think have the ideal bodies, or we've been raised by a family or people at school that made fun of us for our weight or whatever. But I do want to mention most women that were sexually abused, maybe even men, they gain weight later in life so they won't be sexually abused again. That's a real fact. I learned that from The Body Keeps the Score. It's a terrific audiobook, by the way. So what do we do if we feel lost or lonely or depressed? And we're always in isolation because we can't function like the average people, and we're on SSI, or we can't keep jobs, and what do we do? I would start with IFS therapy, Gabor, Alice Miller, Suzanne David, The Body Keeps the Score, Peter Levine, Brene Brown. I didn't have any friends until I started listening to Brene Brown, because I didn't trust people. I was always so isolated. I couldn't be vulnerable with anybody. And then when I got into Brene Brown, I was like, okay, if I'm vulnerable, then the people will feel that and they'll be vulnerable with me. That's why I didn't wear a shirt, because I'm like, if I don't wear a shirt, people are going to be like, hey, this guy didn't wear a shirt. Maybe I shouldn't wear shirts either. And the body shaming that I've had from my parents or my peers or the comparisons I do on Instagram and all that stuff, maybe I should just throw those out the window and not believe in those. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't attach or identify to any culture. I know, like Gabor says, there's no shoulds in his vocabulary, and I feel the same way. However, once you identify with something, you think you are that. That's why if you are depressed, you can't say, I am depressed. You have to say, or you don't have to do anything, but it's healthier to say, I feel depression within me. There's something off. Why am I feeling this depression? And get curious about it. And be compassionate to yourself. And be like, okay, I'm feeling this depression within me. I'm curious about this. Where is this coming from? Why is this inside me? And then be compassionate and loving towards yourself and try to figure it out. And be like, oh, it's because I haven't been outside all day. I've been on my cell phone. Maybe I should go outside and hear the birds and look at the bees fly around the flowers. Maybe that will help, just being in nature, because nature's a medicine. I really love helping our community because I feel like our community needs somebody that's also going through it to be there with us. You know, a lot of us that come from trauma or abuse or a family or parents with mental illness, it's hard for us to trust people in the first place. So by going on YouTube and looking up doctors, you might feel like, that wouldn't work for me. That, because a lot of these doctors and therapists and that kind of thing, they probably came from money and they probably had like the perfect life. So what do they know about suffering? What do they know about mental illness? You know? And that's always been my biggest problem. It's, unless you've been in the trenches, unless you've felt the suffering, then you don't know what the suffering is. And that's why I wrote that book, that ebook. I'll write about how to buy it in the comments, by the way. But it's about suffering by a person who has suffered greatly. And I don't believe in comparative suffering. But when you read somebody's book and they talk about the suffering, you don't feel all alone anymore. You feel like, okay, all right, then I'm not alone. Somebody also feels this way. Somebody goes through this kind of thing with me. So it'll make you feel better. Make you feel like somebody understands you. Somebody's there with you. Especially if they're relatable. So many people, they give us advice, but they're not relatable because they have a peachy keen life. And I think I had this buddy with BPD, and his priest said it best because he was into Christianity because he felt like that healed him. Everybody finds something that they think will heal them. There's nothing bad about that. You know, people just choose different things because we're all different on an individual scale. And he had this priest, and the priest told him, Brett, some of us have severe trauma. I mean, this guy saw people get killed in front of him. He was in orphanages where, like, the people would beat the children and rape the children. He was raped. I mean, like, crazy stuff. He would black out and be standing over somebody's body, like, with blood all over the person. He was in and out of prisons. And he told me once that this priest told him, he said, Brett, some people, they have this perfect life. Their life is absolutely perfect. And say their life is a tree. And all the events and all the things that happen in their life are tree branches. and leaves. Some people that come from like the perfect family, that's, nobody's perfect, but like, really nice family that was, loving unconditionally, those people, to cut down the branches in the tree, they need scissors. They need little scissors. Like, oh, I have this problem in life. Cut it down with a scissor. Oh, like, I have this little trauma event in my life. Cut it down with a scissor. I was listening to this doctor. She was doing a TED Talks, and she got into a car accident. Or her mom was drowning or something. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is what trauma feels like. And she was like 35 years old. I'm like, are you serious? You're 35 and you're a doctor? And that's the first traumatic event that you've ever felt? You don't have hypervigilance? You don't have any of these other things that we might have? We mean the community of severe trauma. So, like one of those people, they need a little scissor. Like, oh, this little tiny event happened to me. Oh, it was painful. Or like, this was a little tea trauma, like cut it down with a scissor. And then you have people that have bigger problems. They need those hedge clippers, right? And then you have people like Brett. People that have been emotionally beat up their entire life by whoever was their caregiver out of the orphanages, the people in the orphanages being raped, sexually abused, seeing dead bodies in front of him. That kind of trauma. Those massive T traumas. The doctor said, or the priest said, Brett, for people like you, in order to cut down those big branches of trauma, you need a chainsaw. So you have people that need chainsaws, people that need hedge clippers, and people that need little scissors to heal from their traumas. And I don't do comparative suffering, but I thought that was the most beautifully stated example of how to heal trauma and what other people go through. And to also understand how much you have to work to heal from your trauma. And you know what, the worst thing that you could ever do is say that you don't have any problems, and like, I don't have any trauma, I had the perfect childhood, all that stuff, but you're still addicted to things, you're still attached to cell phones, you're still attached to all these things. There's a reason for that. Gabor Mate always says that the reason why we attach to certain things or become addicted to things or attached to, whether it's we attach to watching too much Netflix, or we attach too much to our cell phone, or we attach too much to eating food, or we attach too much to like leaning on friends or our boyfriends or girlfriends or husbands or wives to make us happy. The reason why we attach to those things outside of ourselves is because we didn't get our attachment needs met from our parents when we were in the womb and when we were growing up in childhood. And I absolutely love that. And that's why I love Gabor Mate. But anyways, I hope you're having a great day. And I do apologize for not having a shirt on, but I like not having a shirt on. I think I'm going to do it more often. And, do something you love today. And the healing process is a daily ritual and routine, especially if you have a lot of trauma in your life and you never felt loved and you never felt like anybody was ever paying attention to you and you felt neglected. So anyways, thank you so much.